Hello and welcome to a new podcast of Hail the Queen, a podcast about authenticity, happiness, and pursuing your dreams. My name is Raina Spasova van Aust, and my guest today is Wonderlusting Lynda. And we had such a delightful conversation on the subject of joy. Joy as the one thing guiding, well, not one thing, but one of the things guiding the decisions we make, the choices we make in life. Joy is fueled by her curiosity, her desire to be true to yourself, the freedom, the importance of freedom to be yourself. We talked about all these things in detail. We also talked about not caring about what other people think. And I loved when Lynda said, "It's not that I don't care about what other people think, because I'm not a sociopath. Because at the end of the day, we all care about what other people think, but it's about how much importance we give that, how much importance, or as she mentioned, the scale, where we are on the scale of how much we care about what other people think." But I'm getting into too much detail. It was a wonderful conversation, as I already mentioned. I took a lot from it. One of the most important things that stayed with me was when, towards the end, Lynda talked about being wowed by life. Like, that was such a powerful thing for me, being wowed by life, and how it's actually up to me to be wowed by life. I even wrote an article inspired by that and how it affected me and my own search for joy and being high on life and what that journey looked like for me. So the link for it is in the description if in the episode if you're interested in reading. Yeah, I believe this is all that I am going to say now, and the rest I will leave for you to hear yourself from Lynda herself. So enjoy. Welcome to a new episode of Hail the Queen, and my guest today is Wonderlusting Lynda. Welcome to Hail the Queen.
Hey, thank you. Looking forward to talking to you today.
Yeah, me too, me too. So I've been going through your website, Wonderlusting Co. UK, right? Since
Yep,
we're talking about
yep.
it, I better mention it as well. And I was, of course, I always visit the About page. I'm always curious to see how people introduce themselves, how they describe themselves. And so for you, I have award-winning green beauty blogger, a trained journalist, tourism marketing expert, and the cherry on top, which I like the most, the joy-seeking missile filled with wanderlust and boundless curiosity. So how do you combine all these? The joy-seeking missile is obvious, but green beauty, journalism, and tourism marketing, like how do you do all that?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that if you stop and think about it, you probably wouldn't do it. But ultimately, for me, because there's a common thread through all of it, it's all about things that I love doing that I think help in some way, shape, or form to make the world a better place and sharing and talking and helping people discover. So to me, it's all the same. So it just happens to be that sometimes I'm doing it within the travel field, sometimes I'm doing that within the beauty field, sometimes I'm doing it within writing. All of it is the same, ultimately, the same kind of foundation. So, green beauty, travel, they're all about discovering things, they're all about enjoying things, they're all about sharing things. So, other people often say to me, "Oh, wow, you're so random." But to me, they're kind of all the same. They're just different pages of a book, I guess, but they're the same book.
Well, you say random, other people say random, but as I was going through your website, and again, looking at what you're posting, knowing you as well, um, did I mention? Yeah, you also love to write and share about food. That's one thing we probably should add
Yeah,
to your about page.
sure. Actually, I didn't mention that, did I?
It needs a little bit update, but so the common thread that I saw was actually it's two things. One was the joy, and that's something which we talked about before this conversation, that You always follow joy. The other thing which I noticed was curiosity, because to me, only a person who is so curious can write about all these things and try all these things. And I know I'm going all over the place, but since we talked about food, I saw one of your posts about, and I even wrote it down, deep fried Mars bar.
Yep. Yes.
I will never try this. I will never try this.
It's, you talk about curiosity. I am somebody who's, I don't know where it comes from, but I am a deeply curious person. I often, when I look at a menu, I'm somewhere, if I see something I've never tried before, I always think I need to try it at least once. Because if I don't like it, fine, I don't like it, but I might discover something amazing. So yeah, that was not good, by the way, the deep fried. But yeah, it was actually a horrible experience because I mean, it was not nice. But I'm glad I did it because it's something that's a delicacy, well, a well-known dish in that part of Scotland, and I'd heard about it. It was this mythological thing, deep fried Mars bar. So I thought, okay, wow, it's here. Let me actually try this. And yeah, never again.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. So I know not to try it. Because on the other hand, I'm a person who, for instance, when friends come over to Amsterdam and they ask me where should I go to, and I know my favorite places. That's where I go. I know my favorite dishes on the menu. Experimenting is not my thing. Although I do consider myself a curious person. But going back to my question, is the common thread between everything you try and you write about and you share about, is that the joy, the curiosity, or both, or something else?
I think it's both because I think when you start, so for instance, if I, one of the reasons that I'm into green beauty is because of a curiosity into reading ingredient lists. So that was born out of curiosity. And once you know something, you can't unknow it. So once you become curious about what's in your products, you can't suddenly kind of shut the door and think, oh, let me not look at my food. Oh, let me not look at anything else, because your mind is now aware that, oh my God, what's this? What's this? So I think curiosity is something, and I think also it's probably linked to the fact that um, sometimes it feels there's when you're not told certain things. I'm somebody who always, even since I was a child, I've always wanted to know what's really going on, and I think must have been a really annoying child because I was a child who was always asking, but why, but why, but why? Because I always wanted to understand like why things were they were the way they were. So I guess ultimately that is curiosity is, yeah, is definitely a big chunk. But I would say that my curiosity is rooted in ultimately leading to joy, because to me knowledge is power, and you can make better decisions about how you live your life when you know the truth. So I think that they're kind of connected. It's about seeing things and knowing them and learning about them, but ultimately for that to lead to joy, ultimately, because joy is not something that every single moment of your life is filled with joy, because that's not realistic. But being able to see it, so is curiosity leads is the path that's kind of leading to, I guess. Yeah, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And it brings up questions.
Right.
So when I have had conversations around joy with people and expressed, because I do believe that joy is like the guiding light of, am I living my truth? What I often hear people express as a concern is, but aren't you then selfish? So do you ever feel selfish? Do you ever worry you're selfish because you seek joy?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'd say as I've got older, that's been less of a mission in my life. I've been less concerned about what other people think, I suppose, on that front. But in terms of, there are times when I've lived my life and making choices based on what I wanted, which my family by background, by the way, is West African. I was born in Africa, and women fulfilling joy by doing their own thing is seen as quite unusual. So my direct immediate family are not very conventional. So it's, I've been free to be who I want and as I want. But I know that if I lived in a very more traditional family, then the way I live my life even the careers I've chosen would be seen as deeply selfish and irresponsible. So because a lot of the time I've kind of traveled the world by myself. I've pleased myself. Like if I wanted to go somewhere and who I was seeing at the time didn't want to go, I was like, oh, okay, fine, I'm going anyway. So because so I can see that that's been seen as selfish at times. But I have always tried to also be considerate of other people's feelings and thoughtful. But ultimately, I've been very aware that I'm responsible for my own happiness. And, I think it's also partly seeing other people kind of defer their dreams and become martyrs. And I just knew that that's something that I didn't want to do. So if the downside of that is being considered to be selfish, I was fine with that. Being able to kind of live my life in the way that I chose was more important to me. So yes, that's selfish ultimately, but not at the detriment of other people. I've tried, I guess, is the so it's complicated is the short answer, long answer, I suppose. But yes, I'm aware that other people probably see some of my choices as selfish because I've chosen to do what makes me happy rather than what makes family or culture or society or blah 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 happy.
And you also mentioned how you got into green beauty and talking about joy, speaking of joy. Um, so that's how we met, through green beauty. When I had my previous business, and I reached out to you, or I'm not sure how exactly. And I had the pleasure of meeting you in person once in
Yeah, that
London.
was great. Yep.
So, what I've always admired about you is, one, that you're very honest and genuine in what you say, what you share. And at the same time, as a green beauty blogger, you don't limit yourself. I'm not sure if limit is the right word, but you don't use you don't use green beauty products exclusively. So tell me a little bit more about that. And for our listeners, I know we're talking about green beauty, but I'm a big believer that this conversation applies in many, many, many other situations. I know I've had that with food, for instance, being plant based or not. So that's just a tiny note. I think that
Sure.
we talk about green beauty, but not really.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I have certain ingredients. Okay. I'm trying to think back to the ultimate root. Um, Generally, green beauty marketing is based around, traditionally has been based around kind of fear and bad ingredients. Whereas the source of my interest in green beauty came from, I had allergies, which is one thing, but secondly, it came from me being fascinated by ingredients. So that meant that when I choose products, the my focus is on the specific ingredients. It's not about what's not in them because I already filter out things naturally, not naturally, but because I was a geek. So I used to have this big fat book by Paula Bagone. She's now actually got a beauty line, Paula's Choice. But before she had this beauty line, she had this book, and it was before there were blogs or websites or Think Dirty or whatever, that had all the ingredients. Like it was a thick book like this. I've got it somewhere, that I would take to department stores with me, literally. And I'd be flicking through again, being curious, looking at product, the label ingredients on Estee Lauder and all the regular products.
And can I just interrupt you here, because you're showing with your hand, but our listeners won't know. But
Oh,
that's like four fingers.
it is. I should go to my bookshelf and grab it because I found it the other day. But it's a encyclopedia. It's like literally an encyclopedia of
Yeah,
ingredients.
and you carried
So
that around with
I
you.
used to carry around with me and the people in the shops thought I was mad, obviously, because nobody was looking at ingredients then. This was like early noughties, and it wasn't a thing. So
That's
the reason,
dedication.
yeah. So, but I was, So the reason why and I also think that, as you were saying, green beauty isn't just about beauty; it's kind of a wider thing. So, because I don't make any of my choices from a place of fear, it means that if for me, it's about being conscious, making conscious choices. So when I use a so-called product that isn't completely green, I know what's in it. So I've made a conscious choice to use that product because I know what other things are going on in my life. So, for instance, I know what I'm allergic to. I know myself well, so I know that using one so-called bad ingredient isn't going to have a, it's in balance with the rest of my life where I'm eating healthily. I'm not followed, full of pollution from driving. I walk everywhere. So the bigger picture, I know my body can cope with it. So I'm not so het up on every single thing in my life has to be pure, because I know what I can tolerate. And I also am making a conscious choice to use something. So when I use a brand that has got a, I mean, in terms of my skincare, I don't use many products that are dirty. My skincare pretty much is natural and organic. But if I use my makeup, for sure isn't. But I've made a conscious choice. I know I've read the ingredient list. I know whether I think something is toxic or not, and whether it's something that, I think I can live with. So, so ultimately, back to picking things to enjoy. If I see a lipstick that's an amazing color that I know is going to make my heart lift, to me, that's more important than it being 100% pure. Just like sometimes I eat I love healthy food. I'm somebody who genuinely loves green smoothies. Like, I love green juice. Genuinely, they give me joy. But I can also eat a slice of pizza and not feel a single anything about it, because I really want that pizza at that time as well. So I can, I guess ultimately it's about balance. And because I remember meeting a guy once who was talking about, he worked with, God, he was a German guy who worked in this spa, but he was talking about how people who, he had clients who ate really, really healthily, but they were really stressed about what they were eating. And when he'd done some kind of analysis of their blood, I can't remember the details, analysis of their blood, they had really high cortisol levels, and actually they were actually not absorbing nutrients from their food properly because they were so stressed. Whereas there were people who were eating kind of junk food who were getting more nutrition from their food because they were eating it happily. So,
Wow.
which it was fascinating to me. So, I think that but if you're only using green products from a place of stress and fear, it's kind of to the detriment of yourself and the products that you're using. So back to, why I feel okay, why, I'm not strict, in terms of my makeup in particular. It's just a case of I'm making a conscious choice. I'm not using if I, I'm not using the products. I don't know what's in it. I'm fully aware of what's in it, and I've made the choice that for whatever reason, there's something about the product I like, so I'm going to use it. I guess, yeah, that's and that applies to all areas of my life. I don't expect perfection in anything or any field, because that's just failure waiting to happen. Nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. Oh God, that's depressing, but it's the reality. So I'm not going to waste my stress. I feel like we have stress quotas. I'm not going to waste it on things that to me are kind of just a waste of my energy, I guess.
It's funny you call it perfect, because I never thought of it as perfect. Because I know when I started eating vegan, plant based, and in the beginning I really enjoyed it, but then there came the parties, or gatherings with friends where food is not always vegan or plant based. Um, and for instance, I love cake. I love especially chocolate cake. Oh, I've seen so many cakes, and thank God the cakes here in the Netherlands are not really my type. But I've seen so many cakes go in front of me. I'm like, no, no, it's not plant based, so I cannot have it. Um, and of course, this is not a study, but when I gave myself permission to enjoy, I went through a phase where I really was like, buy every sweet stuff in everything. What's the word? Everything sweet I would see in the supermarket, and it's not like I would stuff myself, but the cabinet was full, and of course I wouldn't eat more than a piece or two, but I was eating way more unhealthy just because I had to
Right.
go through that phase of like catching up with all the
Yep.
things that I didn't feel that I could eat. So now I won't say that I eat plant based. I'm not even a vegetarian. Sometimes I do eat, a piece of fish or even chicken, depending. That happens rarely, but I feel much more at peace with myself. And indeed, I have that moment of consciously choosing what do I want to eat, and why is my body craving something. So, yeah, I can really understand what you say about not going for perfection, although I never associated with perfection. Um, and the stress, oh my God, that's so much stress when you look at that
Yeah.
piece of cake, you're like, no, I cannot have it. No, thank you. I don't need this.
It's really, it's funny. I remember um I had a pal who was like, she was like a vegan, she did vegan food or whatever, and then she stopped to eat, she became non-vegan, and the amount of abuse she got from like her followers and all the, it was crazy. And then I also know, green beauty, I know a lot of green beauty bloggers who use non-green things, but then they're terrified of showing it because they think that their followers will, and to me that's crazy. But everybody to their own, because people do worry about being judged in some shape or form. But yeah, so people, are kind of so worried about also what other people will think. They put pressure on themselves, and ultimately that, yeah, that they're not going to be happy. So it's yeah, it's this kind of vicious circle that we see people. And yeah, there've been times in my life where also I felt a pressure to be a certain way, or but also I kind of learned that didn't really work for me. It's like the energy that's required to pretend to be, or to be something else, I'd rather spend that energy doing something else.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I remember when I realized that being 100% plant-based or eating 100% plant-based was not for me. I remember the amount of stress I felt about saying that I am no longer eating that I've changed my mind, that I realized it's not good for me. I still eat mostly plant-based, but I do have my zigzags and whatever they're called. But you say that you used to be well, that you used to care about what people think and now not anymore, or not so much. How, tell me more about that.
Um, Gosh, I can't say that I don't care what people think, because I do care what people think. I'm not a sociopath, but
Thank God.
but the impact it has on my life and the choices I make is kind of, in terms of the. I'm sorry, I'm doing my hand movement which nobody can see. So I think we all have like a scale, and for me, it used to be quite high on the scale, but now it's low on the scale. So it's still on the scale, but it's just really way down. And oh gosh, if I were to pinpoint, I can't actually pinpoint an exact point, but I do know that always, even when I was a child, I always knew that freedom was something that was very important to me, I guess, ultimately. And behaving myself was always something that I saw as being a bit of a trap, because when you behave yourself, people expect you to be perfect all the time. Whereas if you're a little bit naughty, you can get away with a little bit more. So I kind of figured that out quite quickly as a child. Um, so it meant that in terms of caring what people think, so if generally speaking, if you're from where I'm from, you're meant to become a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, a farm. That's the career path. Whereas I decided to do something. There's nobody else in my family, who was kind of went down the path that I went down. But that meant that at that point, I had to kind of learn to not care so much about what people think. I had to develop my armor, I suppose, and my the muscle of not caring what people think at that point. And at each step you take, and it is like a muscle, because the more you do things that you don't care what people think, the easier it becomes to do those things and to think, okay, so what do I want, not what am I doing to please other people. And pleasing other people is something that it's really hard not to do, actually, because we get so much when you do things other people please other people, you get so much praise from it. People kind of, you get all these good feelings from people, telling you, affirming what you're doing. But actually, if it's not what you really want to do, then you pay the inner price for that. So I guess ultimately, I just learned that following my own path was a more peaceful way for me to live, I suppose, than caring what other people thought, to the extent that it impacted the choices I made. I think that was a bit long-winded, but yeah.
Oh no, it's perfect, and I do love the. I love that you call it a muscle, because it is a muscle. It's like you said, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. But that also, and especially as I listen to what you just said, that's in general changing a habit or developing a habit. strengthening a muscle, that requires awareness. So I'm wondering, nowadays, you seem to be quite a pro at not caring so much about other people, following joy, which is your truth. Do you have like rituals or what's the other word? Practices to help you stay connected to your awareness, to activate that joy in you?
I mean, in terms of, I guess, I don't do many ritual, but I do a lot of things um, I'm trying to think of an example. So recently, somebody, for instance, I don't meditate, but every morning I go out for a walk and I get completely lost in nature. Just I get up, I look at flowers and plant. I can look at like 100 leaves and become completely just focused on them. And somebody kind of said to me, "Well, actually, that's meditation, but you just don't call it meditation." But the short answer is I do have a routine. So before I answer when I wake up in the morning, before I answer any emails or look at my phone, I go for a walk. Or when it's getting kind of, because at the moment it's getting very dark now in the mornings. So or I do a workout, normally something that's gonna get the endorphins going, like dancing, kickboxing, something. And those are ways to. So when I go out in nature, that is a way for me to feel a sense of awe, because I know that that when I look at the colors, I'm always amazed by leaves. It just sounds like they're so like, oh, I'm getting leaves just fascinate me. Trees fascinate me. The way they bend and the way they shed their leaves, they inspire me actually when I see them. And so every morning when I do that, it's a way that really connects me with my sense of wonder. And I remember a boyfriend saying to me that he saw things differently because I would go out for a walk and I'd keep stopping to look at something because I was just so like, wow, look at that bark on that tree. Oh, look at that cut, And he said he'd never noticed those things before. So that tapping into like being wowed by the world is something that going for a walk every morning actually really lets me feel a sense of, wow, I'm living in this world we live in. It's just like, oh man, that whatever emails or crap is going to be thrown my way that day, having that, looking at the clouds even, God, that's just like, wow. It sets me up for the day that whatever happens, I know that I saw this amazing sunset in the morning. It may not be there tomorrow, but I've seen it. So it might be there later in the week, or there might be. So that's, I guess, part of my ritual of helping me connect to know that even if I'm having a really crappy day, and I mean, I've had some crappy days, recently, that morning walk just really reminds me that I live in an amazing world, despite everything, despite all the horrors. It's an amazing world. So, yeah, I guess that's a part of my practice, I suppose. And it's funny, whenever I've tried, like I've been to classes, I can never like meditate properly in a class because my mind's always thinking about other things. But if I just do it on my own, then I can. But if I'm told, okay, meditate now, or close your eyes, I mean, my eyes are open. I'm kind of looking to. uh, so I don't know what that says about says about me, but yeah.
Beautiful. And it's interesting you mentioned trees and especially the leaves, because it was just yesterday I was walking, as I was walking the dog. The leaves are falling now. And I was looking at leaves, every random leaves falling from the trees here and there. And I had this thought of abundance, how the trees have so many leaves, they fall every fall, and next year there they are again. So it's like such an amazing example of abundance.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I said, trees have been some very dark times in my life. It sounds crazy to tell me that trees have given me so much hope. Seeing that they do, you see them with like no leaves, and then next time, a few months later, they're like green and lush, and it kind of gives you hope. I find it very hopeful. And as you said, the abundance, it really does kind of, I don't know, is tree therapy a thing? um,
Well, that's what I was thinking. I don't know if tree therapy is a thing, but that's what I was thinking. That I hear people talk about the clouds, their fascination with clouds. I hear people, me being one of them, I love flowers. I always have flowers around me, and instead of meditating, sometimes I would just for 5 minutes look at the flower and admire what nature can do. But the trees, I really didn't expect that. And once again, it's so interesting because, like I said, what happened yesterday, but also I've been reading a lot about the roots of Bulgarian people, not as so I'm from Bulgaria, not so much as a country, but as people and beliefs, culture, etc. And trees are play a big part of that. Something I've been learning a lot recently, so I just find it interesting. And then, of course, my question: as a curious grown up, where does your fascination with trees come up? Did it just come, or
Yeah, it just I can't, I can't pin. I don't recall being as a. I honestly can't. I think maybe when I began walking, I can't tell when where or when it started. I can't pinpoint the exact time, but I do know that they have this quite profound effect on me, and it's especially in I'm somebody who autumn and winter are kind of my struggle seasons, I suppose, because I'm a spring, summer lover, sunshine lover. Um, so autumn and winter, it's like God, I'm sapped of energy, and the trees at that point, just knowing that they're going to come back. Yeah, so I honestly I can't tell you at what point I suddenly realized that I was amazed by them. Yeah, I can't actually tell you.
okay? And then a random question. And I understand you cannot say this. I mean, if you ask me, since when do you like flowers? I don't know. I like flowers as far as I can remember. Would you say that you're more a beach person, or since you love trees, would you say that you prefer more mountains, forests?
Well, it's a kind of a tricky question for me because actually I am not a big beach person. Like a beach holiday is just like, oh no. I remember actually, yeah, I've argued about going to beach because for me also beaches are places where I go to work because a lot of my travel clients have been in beach places. So it's always been beaches have not, sitting on the sand reading. It's just like no, not my idea. But because mountains are cold, I love mountains actually. I love the greenness and I love the seeing what nature has carved out. I find that um, and forests. I find I'm intrigued. I don't love. My relationship with forests is kind of complicated because I find them very kind of like Hansel and Gretel in terms of I'm always waiting for like something to pop out, and I don't know why, but I'm fascinated by them. Like I went mushroom hunting about 2 weeks ago, 2 weekends ago, and just seeing how mushrooms, all these different shapes, and there's something kind of magical I feel about forests compared to other. So what am I? I'm no, I'm not a beach person. I'm not. I love. Yeah, it's funny. I actually quite like cities. um, but cities with lots of greenery within them.
I'll take that
Yeah,
answer as well.
yeah. So actually,
It's
speaking
funny.
of Bulgarian flowers, just before I forget, I was reading recently about this Bulgarian flower festival. Actually, no, we can talk about it later. Sorry, don't worry.
Yeah,
And
that's
I was the Rose Festival, and I was thinking, wow, I
Rose
really want to
Festival.
do
Yeah,
this. Yeah,
yeah. I love I love roses. I mean, it's part of growing up in Bulgaria. Roses are everywhere. Um, we have songs. We have it's part of identity. But I also remember summers at my grandmother's house, and then waking up in the morning. I love summer, warm, sunny, no school, and waking up and just opening the door to the balcony and stepping at the balcony and seeing her huge rose bushes. So that's why I love roses. But going back to my question about the forests or the oceans, I secretly hope you say forests or trees or mountains, because
yeah,
you say that there's so many trees there.
yeah,
I really didn't expect you to
yeah. No,
say
I
city person.
Yep, I'm full of surprises. But yeah, no, as I said, forests for me, I just find them really magical places, but in a weird way. I feel like there's magic, that like things are gonna, yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. And then another question. Well, actually, Now, I have two more questions before we wrap up, and I feel that they're both important. So, the first one is, who is Lynda? And to give you a little bit, because I know this can be a bit of a how do I answer this question? I'm asking this because let me see how to explain this. Of course, speaking from personal experience, I noticed that I so often identify with a mom or the work I do or uh, all those labels, so to speak. And since you have quite a lot of those labels, quote unquote, so who is Lynda?
Yeah, I mean that is a question. I mean, it's funny because work is. I remember, I used to work at a big agency, and I was MD of the agency, and people really like titles. They like, and I'm actually somebody who does. I'm not a big lover of titles or what I do defining me. But who is Lynda? I guess Lynda is third person, third person is ultimately an explorer, in various ways. In I have an exploring mindset, um, or discovery, I suppose. I want to learn. I want to soak things up, and I mean, I was going to say storytelling as well. I suppose, in that I also want to share things that I discover with people that I think that they're going to enjoy. So whether, if I find a food something, or if I travel somewhere, ultimately, having a content creator, ultimately all of it is about discovering something. I've done the exploring, and then I'm sharing it with other people because I think it's this amazing thing or wonderful thing that I want them to also get to enjoy and appreciate. So yeah, when I'm in all parts of my life, ultimately that's kind of where it's leading to. So even when you know, I'm not interested in reviewing any random products. It's always something that I think is going to be. I don't want to waste my time with something I think is not going to work. I look for things I think, wow, this is something special in some way, shape or form that other people want to know about or should know about, or if it's a topic that people don't know about. So I guess sharing sharing of knowledge, information, is what's the word? I'm trying to think what the adjective for that would be. Yeah, I'm somebody who wants to discover and to live my life in a way that is truthful, I suppose. I have no like, for instance, I don't want people to like me because I pretend to be something I'm not, because to me they don't like me then, really, do they? So I've always believed in. I don't share my personal life on Instagram, whatever, social media, because that's not. But whatever I do share is what I genuinely believe about things, or what I feel. That I don't want to pretend that I like something I don't. I don't want to pretend that I use something I don't. So I guess being somebody who's truthful is a big part of who I am, because for me, I don't see the point of not living like that. It's just not living an authentic life, to me, it's just feels very painful. Actually, it would be something that would be very painful to go through life like that. So who is Lynda? Does that kind of cover it or not?
Yep, that was a beautiful answer. That was a beautiful answer. And then not so random question. Are you reading a book right now? Well, not right now as you speak, but are you reading? Which book are you reading?
I'm actually just reading some James Baldwin, and it's his essays. I think he was somebody who, a great American writer, and at the time, when you think of the time he lived, he was this gay black man at a time when being a gay black man was a huge, it was stigma in society. I mean, and he lived his truth. He never hid who he was, and that I find that so inspiring. And he spoke his truth. I love that. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. But I actually am desperate to read some fiction, because the past year I've read nothing but non-fiction, and I actually really I'm coming towards the end of the book, so I actually want some suggestions on good fiction to read.
I have one for you. I'll look it up
All
because I
right.
don't remember. It was a gift to me from somebody else in the Green Beauty, but it's a book I thoroughly enjoyed. I even laughed, which doesn't happen often with books. So I'll share that with you. Then the final question. This is really the final question. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Wonderlusting Lynda. So Wonderlusting, WONDER. I'm not going to spell. Hold on, I was going to spell the whole thing out. Let me do
I'll
that
put
again.
it.
Yeah, you can put it in the details because yeah, Lynda with a Y. Or if you head to my blog wanderlusting.co.uk, you can find a spectrum of things there, from food to beauty to all the different things. Well, not all the different things, but quite a few sections of things that interest me. So yeah, and I hope that would interest you too.
Hi again, it's me, Raina, the host, your host. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to visit our website, hailthequeen.me/podcast. That would take you straight to the podcast page on my website. And there you will find more episodes, you'll find our story. You'll find also my tips about how to make the most out of this episode, how to get the most out of it. And not just out of this episode or Hail the Queen, but any podcast episode you have or will listen to. And before you go, I would like to ask you for a favor. Please support Hail the Queen. And here are a couple of ways you can do that. One, of course, share Hail the Queen with friends, family, people you come across that you think Hail the Queen might be of help to them. If you're listening on iTunes, please make sure to leave us a review. That helps tremendously. Another way to support Hail the Queen is by subscribing or following Hail the Queen on your favorite podcast provider. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And until next time.